Hi guys, welcome to today's video. Today we're going to be talking about something a little bit different, a little bit of a different format to the video today because we have had the launch of the new Canon R1 today. I've watched the full live stream that Canon did releasing the R1, the R5 Mark II, the C400 and the AI tracking lens, the dual lens, the RFS one, which I don't care about at all. But what this video is going to be talking about is mainly the R1 and talking about, is it just an R3 Mark II, or if we class this as the R1, does that make this the R1 Mark II? Because we all know that this was meant to be the R1 originally. But we're going to look at talk about some of the specs of the camera. I'm going to tell you my thoughts about the camera. Full disclosure, I've not watched any other reviews, anyone talking about it. I have literally watched this live stream that I'll put in the description down below so you can get to it as well. And these are all going to be my own thoughts. I've purposely not watched anyone else's videos for that exact reason. So, even written everything down on a notepad today. So, spec-wise, starting off 24.2 megapixel back illuminated stacked sensor. What does that sound like? Something that we've had before and something else. The difference with this though is it has an AI upscaling built into the camera, so you can actually get away with getting images, they're saying, at 4 times the resolution, to up to 96 megapixels. Now, what I'm more interested to know about is, can you use that setting when you're shooting at speed, or is that a setting that you preset and it literally, you get one photo at a time? Because you've got to think, you're shooting normally at 24, but to upscale it to 96, something's got to happen in the background to do that while you're taking the image. Is that going to take time, or can you shoot at the full speed of the camera? You've got dual pixel AF, just like the R3, mechanical and electronic shutter, so they did keep the mechanical shutter in the R1. Big surprise, I thought they were going to get rid of that. 40 frames a second, so you have got some more juicy frames there. They've upgraded it to 2 CF Express B cards to keep up with that 40 frames a second. What else we got here? So we got the shutter speed, goes all the way up to 1/64,000th of a second. You got your ISO between 100 to 102,400, but can be put up to in a high mode of 409,600. You do have the eye tracking that you have in the R3, but it's the Mark II version. Looking at the video, there's a part of it where they talk about the intelligent AI autofocus feature, and basically what it does is it tries to preempt what person, if you're taking photos of a football game, you've got 4 people stood there, and it looks at where the ball's going, works out that's going to be the person you're going to want to talk to, take photos of, because that's where the ball's going, and it very cleverly pre-focuses over there, ready for you, and that looks really good. That's a really nice touch they've done on that to bring that to you, and will be really useful to see how that works in the real world. You also now have Sport AF modes, not just animal and people, which at the moment has football, volleyball and basketball as the default tracking abilities built in. You also is still using the LP-E19 battery that is all the way from, comes in the R3, the 1DX Mark III and the 1DX Mark II, so it's good they're continuing using the same battery all the way throughout the range there, so it's nice and simple to get that. They are recommending between 700 and 1,330 shots on a battery charge, depending if you have the LCD out at the back or not. From my experience, that was a very similar number to what they recommended on the R3, and I can get 3,000 to 4,000 photos out of that with the screen back, but also using the screen occasionally to review photos, so you'll get a generous amount more than that. Also, for the people who are going to use a camera like this for video footage, which I don't think there's going to be that many people, you can shoot up to 6K now. Not something that's massively important, but it's there if you need it. And the big one, which they did not tell you in this video, I had to go hunting. Luckily, after the video went live, loads of people had them up for sale for pre-order. but this camera in the UK is going to be £7,000, which is a lot of money. And especially when looking at the trading figures for the R3 against it, looking at 2.5 from some places. So you're having to spend 4 or 5 grand almost, 4 and a bit to 5 grand to upgrade from an R3 to the R1. Now the big question is, looking at the specs I've just told you, is the R1 not just an R3 Mark II? I can say pretty much is. Looking at how they've upgraded it, and the fact it's got the Mark II version of the iFocus, you've got the same size shutter, megapixel shutter, and everything like that. It's slightly faster, and you've got 2 of the same card readers. It pretty much is just this in a slightly different body, which is slightly bigger by the looks of it. It looks really bulky on the sides. Looking at when people are holding it, it looks like it's a little bit wider and a little bit deeper. But like the actual usage and stuff, yeah, it's great to have that extra AI tracking. But considering a lot of people who are going to be buying the R1 already have an R3, is it worth potentially having to spend 4.5, 5 grand to get out of this into an R1? Probably not, unless you're making money from it. If you're like me and you're just having it because you're very lucky to be able to afford one of these and you bought it second hand, then you're not going to upgrade. I'm not going to upgrade to the R1. That's just too much money, and they're asking too little for one of these to trade in against it. I do reckon now that they've officially launched the R1, they're going to drop the R3 and discontinue it to force people into buying the R1. These are now £5,500 in the UK. It's a £1,500 less. Are you getting a £1,500 more camera? It's going to be hard to say unless you're a pro. I don't think you are getting that much more of a camera. The only thing that really appeals to me of it is that new AI technology it's got, where it sort of preempts stuff, and I would like to know if that works with animals too. So you can kind of, if it sees a bush rustling in the corner, is it going to go and preempt a shot over there at all? But if it's just on sport, that's not going to be any use to me at all. I do so little sport nowadays that that's not going to be a massive thing. It'd be good to try out the new eye tracking, because I personally have no issues with the Mark 1, but it'd be good to see how much quicker the Mark 2 is on there. Body feel and say how it works for everything I've got already. This is amazing. It'd be nice to have 2 matching cards. That's the only other thing that might be quite useful for me, but the fact is it's still the same megapixel camera. Yes, this doesn't have AI upscaling, but we still don't know how, in the grand scheme of things, that AI upscaling works. Maybe some of the review people have already covered this, but as I said at the start, I haven't watched the reviews. I'm just basing it off what Canon have said. The other massive miss on this is not having a global shutter. Now, on the video, the tech guy who talks about why they didn't do that said that the shutter they've got in there at the moment is so fast that they didn't warrant having a global shutter. Now, you're making a flagship camera, and that technology is available and it is in your competitor's camera at a lower price point. Why haven't you put that in your camera? You may think it may not need to be speed as fast and stuff like that, because apparently it's 43% faster than the shutter readout speed of this. And it's massive. It's even faster than a 1DX Mark III, which is just a mechanical shutter, so it is super, super fast. But your competitor has it from Sony on an A9 Mark III. That technology is readily available. Why haven't you used that in your flagship camera to make it different to the R3? Because at the moment, it's got the same processor, the same megapixels shutter sensor. It's not any different to this or even the R6 Mark II in that sense. It's kind of using the same sensor. So it's really strange they didn't go that route. I don't know why they didn't go that route. They say using those excuses, but I think there's got to be another reason. I'm also a little bit sad they didn't put a slightly bigger megapixel sensor in it. They clearly have the access and capability of making a 30 megapixel sensor because they have one in the R7. Obviously that's a crop, but with the geniuses they must have at Canon, they must be able to make a full frame version of that sensor. and they could have put that in there, and then the AI upscaling wouldn't have been as much as a thing, because you know damn well that the Sony A1 Mark II, when that comes out, is going to have global shutter. It's going to be 50 megapixels. It's going to be 40 frames per second. It's going to absolutely spec-wise destroy the R1. But see, Canon must know that. I'm just a bit confused why they haven't gone that route. And you'd assume that Nikon, when they make the Z9 Mark II, will make that a global shutter as well. They've already got rid of the mechanical shutter side, so they clearly would make that. The reason it's even weirder that the Canon have even kept the mechanical shutter on the R1 when there's going to be so few people with how fast that readout speed is going to be using that mechanical shutter. So I'd like to know a little bit more from Canon why they've done that, and I will look into other videos to see why. I just wanted to come to this video completely fresh with my own thoughts from the video behind me, rather than being influenced by other people's thoughts, and that might change my opinion slightly. This is my raw thoughts after finishing work, straight watching the video and coming here. So you let me know what your thoughts are. Will you be buying one? Will you trade in your R3? Have you got an R3? Or are you going to keep your R3 and wait for these to come on the second-hand market? Because that's what I'll do. I'll wait a year or two for the Mark II to come out, and then potentially trade this in against an R1 second-hand and get it that way instead, because that's what I did with this. I waited 2 years for this to come down, and then here we are now. I've got one in my hands after trading in the R6. So let me know your thoughts. Let me know what you wish you would have seen from this camera, things you think are good with the camera, things you think Canon should have revised, stuff like the software stuff, like the AF tracking for football and sports and stuff. That's going to surely be an update for this at some point, so that's going to all end up on the R3. So physical, mechanical stuff inside is what we need to look at, and sort of what they could have improved. So let me know in the comments down below. Let me know if you like this type of video as well, because obviously there's new stuff coming out all the time, and it'll be good if you do enjoy this kind of content for me to do some more for you during the weeks. So let me know. I'll catch you in the next one. Please subscribe, comment and like as you always do, and I'll see you again soon. Goodbye.